The women, of course, there were joint families, so the women lived together, the men lived together, they were separate. And you know, Westerners might think, well, that's so impersonal or weird or something, but it wasn't impersonal or weird for them. That's just how they did it, because they understood, you know, that Grihastha life, it's meant to be lived in a little bit of a detached way, because that's the ultimate goal. So a society that reflects spiritual values will have in place protocol that keeps sobriety between male and female. And so you can see now in society today, there's very little sobriety between male and female. It's pretty, as we're saying, women dress down, they don't dress up. And men are happy with that. Oh, you know, we can look at all the beautiful women. And then pornography is pervasive. It's a huge industry because so many men want it. And the point is that even innocent men who normally wouldn't go after it, they are looking at it because it's so easily available. Sometimes it just shows up on your computer, you're not even looking for it. And so in any society that had a brain, they would make this all illegal because they would understand that is destroying the very foundation and strength of a society. And it's degrading the women. And in men's mind, it's implanting these samskars that women's are sexual objects. So one of the things you see in one of Prabhupada's missions, or his main mission, was to create Brahmins, because Brahmins are the head. And so a lot of times, when Prabhupada would be talking, he would be talking about the fact that there's no head in society. And so we're creating a head, and then the mission of the Krishna consciousness movement is to create a head for society. So now, if you look at the sexual issue, the fact that pornography is allowed, I mean, in some countries they were smart enough to not allow it because they were religious countries. Actually, in South Africa, when I was there in the 80s, stores could not be open on Sunday because Sunday was the day that people should go to church. So they just made it illegal. And actually, they made it illegal for stores to be open after 1 o'clock on Saturday. And everything had to close by 5 o'clock on the weekdays. In other words, they were smart. They didn't want to create this passionate culture of these people working. But they wanted people to be home in the evenings with their families. They wanted people to go to church on Sundays. So, you know, you couldn't go out. There's nowhere to go at night. There's nothing. Oh, maybe a few pharmacies were open, but no stores, no other stores. I think the Hypermart was like the Walmart of South Africa. That was open till 6. Everything else closed at 5. So there was, you know, nothing to do in the evening but be home with your family. There's nothing to do on Sunday but go to church. And pornography was illegal. So anytime you have a religious society, they will do such things. And that's the Brahminical head, where you have Brahmins, then you have religious society. But when you separate the Brahmins, you have secular society, then it's all about capitalism. And capitalism is all about money. Capitalism means whatever makes money is the bottom line. That's where we go. So pornography, prostitution, it makes money. You know, naked dance clubs, whatever you call those places. It makes money, right? So it's capitalism. So you're thinking, why is this allowed in society? It's destroying men. It's destroying our young boys. They have access to pornography. Why is this being allowed? Because there's no brain. Because secular society has pushed the brain out. The brain is the religious people. And so many of our laws today, what we call morals, are just coming from Scripture. But people, you know, they don't want religion, but at the same time, so many of our laws came from religion. So it's like, it's messed up. So Brahmins are the brain. You take away the Brahmins, you have a society which is brainless. And when you have a brainless society, the bottom line becomes money. So that's the definition of capitalism. Capitalism and democracy are two separate things, because you have capitalism in China, which is a communist country. So capitalism is not a form of government. Capitalism is simply whatever makes money is valued. Money is valued, and whatever you have to do to make money, that is valuable. So in a capitalist society, the Brahmins can't function because no one will listen to them. And you have, the interesting thing, at least about American society, is that there's so many ills in society, and there's so many intelligent people that have written books explaining why these ills exist. It's very, very clear. It's not that there aren't smart people that don't understand things. It's the mass of people are kind of dumbed down, just work all week, get some money, so they can, buy a nice car and have a nice iPhone, and get drunk on the weekend, and they don't think too much. As if they thought too much, they would realize that their life is a mess, and they wouldn't be able to deal with it. So better they don't think. But there are people who think, and they write books about and explaining why there are ills in society and so forth. But the mass of people are they're dumbed down so much that they don't understand these things. And now, so what do you have in society now? You have 50%, 60% divorce rate. That means unless those people marry, that means you have a large percentage of children who are being raised by single parents, and it's not God's arrangement that children be raised by single parents. And you get all of these emotionally disturbed people. Young people today who are not grounded, who didn't have normal upbringings, and they had parents who couldn't take care of them and so forth. And it creates a problem for them. And then they'll raise their children in a similar way. So it's like put it all together, religious values, belief in God, sense control, duty. It solves all these problems. But our society, it's based on, the value is money and the value is sense gratification. And the value is money and sense gratification. It means the Shudras and the Vaishyas are controlling. And when you have Shudras and Vaishyas controlling society, you have a society that is not going to function properly, because the brain is not working. And when you have a Shudra and Vaishya society, that means that people who have the brain aren't listened to. They're not taken seriously. And like for example, if you read the writings of great philosophers and great religious teachers and people like Confucius and so forth, they address all the social ills of society with clarity, with profundity. They understand these things. But people don't read that today, because people are too busy on texting on Facebook and drinking beer on the weekend. People are not philosophical. They're just dumb, basically. What's there to eat? Where can we have sex? And so Prabhupada said, my mission is to make animals human beings. And so that sounds like very harsh words, but actually you think about it, it's true. That's what Prabhupada's doing. These people are not human. I mean, there's a few humans, they have brains, they think. I think it was George Bernard Shaw. They said, well, you seem to be so successful and so intelligent, more so than other people. He said, no, I'm not. He said, the difference between me and other people is that I just think a few times a week. So he's saying that people don't think, they just act, being controlled by their senses and by social norms. They just act, they don't think. So then Prabhupada comes along, he writes his books, and he says, it's like this. He's appealing to the intelligence. He's appealing to people who have Brahminical intelligence, who can look and say, yes, there's something wrong here. What we're doing is not right. And Prabhupada's saying, it's not right because of this, and this is what is right. And that's the Brahmins. The Brahmins have the clarity of the brain. So throughout history, you'll see their Brahmins. You'll see the people who've analyzed many, many problems. I find it's so interesting to read philosophers from 200, 300, 500,000, 1,500, 2,000 years ago. Because the way they think is so much different from the way people think now. I was reading, I picked up a magazine called Psychology Today when I was in America. And the title, what does the title say? It says, what happy people do differently? What happy people do differently? So I thought, let me read this. It will be appropriate to my teachings as I teach people how to be happy. So then they do all this research about what makes people happy. If you have a friend who celebrates your success, that makes you happy, and this, that, and the next thing. So as I'm reading one article after another, they're just short articles, like 500 words about this makes you happy, and through these studies, we found that this doesn't make you happy, but this makes you happy. If you have a challenge and you face it, that makes you happy, like that. So everything was about what makes you happy. It was completely focused on what will make you happy. If you think this way, if you do this, it'll be happy. You'll be happy. If you do this and do that, you won't be happy. So as I'm going through every article, I'm thinking, the focus is simply on one thing. What will make us happy? There was no focus about, don't focus about on what will make you happy, and that will make you happy. Focus on service, and there was nothing in there about that. The focus is, well, if you think this way, it'll make you happy. So I'm reading, and you think that way, it'll make you happy. And you do this, it'll make you happy. If you do that, it won't make you. I'm thinking, okay, what is this whole magazine about? It's about how we as individuals could be happy, because the ultimate goal of life, we know, is to be happy. And there's nothing greater for us, nothing greater for materialistic culture than to think about how I, as an individual, can personally be happy, right? So that is basically animal consciousness. Now, that's called anamoya. It's the lowest level of consciousness, anamoya. How can I be happy? How can I get food? How can I satisfy myself? And then you go to pranamoya. Pranamoya is one stage higher. It's how can we all be happy together? Well, I want to be happy, you want to be happy. Well, maybe if we get together, we can help one another be happy. So, social norms and societal norms, communities and so forth are formed. They look like very benevolent communities or very benevolent consciousness, but pranamoya simply means we're getting together to create laws and social norms so we can enjoy sense gratification. So this is where society's at. I've got a whole magazine about how I can be happy. Millions of dollars of research, how I can be happy. Where's that at? You understand that's where society's at? And so you have so many profound writers in history writing about the degradation of that type of thinking, how that will destroy society, it will destroy you as a human being. It's so interesting that for thousands of years people have understood this and saw the degradation of that kind of selfish thinking of how I will be happy and how I will enjoy. But in today's society, everyone is focused on it. They can't understand anything else because the brain doesn't work. So when we were going to court and we were being charged with brainwashing, and they would go to Prabhupada and say, Prabhupada, they say we're brainwashing. And Prabhupada said, no, you have no brain. We're brain giving. You need a brain to wash. That would be a compliment that we're brainwashing, but you don't have a brain. We're brain giving. And it's true. Actually, in Krishna consciousness, we're giving people a brain and said, this is how to think. Oh, okay, well, let me look at this again. Trying to be happy, and I'm completely entangled in misery, and I'm doing everything that I want to do and I love to do, and that's all I think about is me, and I'm totally unhappy. And I just got divorced, and my 2 kids are unhappy because I left them, and on and on and on. That's where we end up. So we're giving a brain, say, wait a minute, it's not about you, it's about duty. It's about higher values of life. It's about respecting your husband and wife. It's about raising children in God consciousness. It's about human form of life. It's not about sense gratification. Oh, okay, the brain starts kicking in, right? And so we are attracting, or at least trying to attract people that have a little bit of a brain, at people who understand these things, people who have some piety, some samskar, who we can talk to and go, yes, that makes sense. So they join us, and they go out and they help find other people who have a little bit of brain, or who we can give a brain to. And so our whole movement is just stimulating people's brains, at least people who can be stimulated, to think that beyond animal life, because otherwise people are just thinking animal life, and it looks all nice and because it's socially organized, but that's just pranamoya. It's just animals coming together to enhance what? How each one can enjoy. So I may appear very selfless and kind, but it just works within a system by which I will get enjoyment from doing that, and that's my motive. It has to be that way until you come to a higher consciousness. So that's all the Krishna consciousness movement is giving people a brain, and then those people go out and giving other people brains. or stimulate, I would say also, is stimulating people who have brains, because a lot of people do understand these things, but we need to clarify and stimulate it. I think a lot of people, when they read Bhagavad Gita, they said, yes, I understood this was true, I just couldn't put it into words. So there are a lot of people in society that are being dumbed down, but there's some that are resisting being dumbed down, that have intelligence, that see through it, that have enough piety to understand that this is animal life. And those are the people we're trying to give Krishna consciousness to. But we have to be clear ourselves, and we can't be acting like animals ourselves. Okay, now, I'm going to go to your comments. Oh yeah, Grihastha Vision Team has a list of premarital questions, like how many children do you want to have? Do you want to live in a palace or do you want to live in a shack? Questions like that. Do you want to preach or do you want to not preach? How do you want to serve? Okay, how do we protect our children? I think there's a lot of media out there online that can help children understand how they're being degraded by the media. I think part of the problem is children are innocent, so they don't understand when they're sitting on Facebook and getting polluted. They don't understand what's going on. They're watching movies, they don't understand. So you as a parent have to understand, and then you have to moderate, and you have to know, you have to be careful who your kids associate with. You might say, oh, they're just going with the boy next door, he's really nice. Well, how do you know he's really nice? How do you know what is he reading? What is he listening to? What does he talk about? You see? Sometimes your kids come back and they're cursing. It's like, where did they learn that? Not from you. They learned it from that 6-year-old boy whose older brother taught him all the curse words. So you have to monitor that, because as I said, they're going to be pulled down more easily than them pulling their friends up. They're going to be pulled down. Right? So now you might think, well, they just have to associate with devotees. Well, are all devotee kids not exposed to all the media out there? No, a lot of them are. A lot of them sit around playing computer games and watching movies hours a day. I think devotee kids do that, yeah. In Chowpatty, they have not Chowpatty, but run by the Chowpatty devotees in Mumbai, they have a school called Gopal Gardens. And if you want to send your kid to school, one of the requirements is you cannot have a television in your house. And you have to chant 16 rounds and follow the regular principles. So, as I said often, your children don't listen to you, but they listen to what you do. So, you also have to realize that most of their values they're getting from you in the house. So if you're hanging around watching TV, that's what they're going to do. What I tell parents also is how you treat your kids. We're going to hold on a second. I have to. Occasionally, somehow or other, the Indian system, the plug, it decides it doesn't want to work all the time. Okay, now I got it working. So, what I tell parents is that really important is how you deal with your children teaches them how they deal with others. So what are you talking about, and how patient are you with them, and how positive are you with them, and you just get mad at them and yell at them, then you're also teaching them how to deal with other people. And so a lot of times our children are just a reflection of us. So as unfortunate as the situation may be, sometimes we have to protect our children from other devotee children who are not as serious as our own children, depending what you expect and what you want for your children. Right? Some parents may not want to be so strict with their kids because they think it's not healthy, and they think their kids should be exposed to everything. Because they're going to be exposed to it anyway, so they want to get them exposed to it a little bit, and so there may be some truth to that, but still, you need to monitor what they're going to be exposed to, and If your kids have friends who are being exposed to things that you wouldn't expose your kids to, then they're getting exposed to that through their friends. So we've been finding this problem in Mayapur, which is such a sacred place, that, you know, with the advance of social media and the internet, kids are just exposed to all kinds of stuff that 50 years ago they would never be exposed to. And television 50 years ago was not that bad as it is now. I'll give you an example, right? My daughter had an assignment with 6 girls in her school to form a band and to perform live. So the girls are like from like 8 years old to 17 years old. So I said, okay, I'll help you. So I helped them write the song and then help them learn how to play it. And then we decided that, or they said that part of the song they can do a rap, or they should do a rap or something. So we got this thing from George Harrison: give me peace, give me peace, give me love, give me hope, give me something to try to cope, you know, from one of his songs. So he turned it into a rap. And when I grew up, rap wasn't popular, so, and my daughter's not exposed to it, and the other girls. So I said, we were trying to figure out like the beat and so forth, and I said, well, let's go on YouTube, you know, let's listen to some rap so we can, you know, see what it's all about and get the beat. And I came up on YouTube, like, you know, the top 50 rap songs of 2013 or something. So we go on one, and it's like, it's all like half-naked women focused on their breasts, right? And not some unsavory guy singing, right? And then we go to the next one, it's the same thing. And then we go to the next one, it's the same thing, except I think this guy's got a gun. And then you go to the next one, and I'm like, okay, I guess we're not going to look at that. So that's what's out there, you know. You just have to realize that's what is out there. And when children were raised in Vedic society, the boys went to school and they lived with their guru. So what are you exposed to when you live with your guru? They were celibate brahmacharis, there were no women in the school. What are they exposed to? They're protected. Guru protects, right? So parents, you're supposed to protect your kids, so you have to become like the guru who protects your kids. You know, your home has to be like the guru. I mean, that's why boys went to school, get away, and they live in the ashram, right? So now, if you come to Mayapur and you see the boys in the school here, who live in the school of the Gurukula, these boys are totally, undeniably different than boys, even boys in Mayapur who go to school in Mayapur, the normal school. These boys are even different. There's no association they get other from their peers and their teachers and the Maharaj. That's all they're getting. So it's a totally ideal, controlled environment. And these boys are amazing. They're just completely amazing. So, you want to protect your kids as far as possible from the evil influences of Kali Yuga. You want to protect yourself as far as possible from the evil influences of Kali Yuga. You know, you watch TV, you watch movies, you're just bringing Kali Yuga right into your living room. Why would you want to do that, right? So, now, are there non-devotional movies that are good? Yes. Are there documentaries that are good? Yes. I believe, and I'm seeing this with my daughter, and now my daughter, every day they have classes with Bhaktivedanta Purna Swami, and the assignment is that each girl comes with 5 questions for the Maharaj, and he just asks, what's your question? And it's all philosophy. So I'm seeing by my daughter going to this class that discusses philosophy, it's really making her Krishna conscious. And yesterday we had a parent-teachers meeting, and there were 3 girls who were 17 who were graduating. And they've all done the Bhakti Shastri, which means they study the Gita, you know, since they're like 13 or 14. They study Gita, Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Instruction, and Isopanishad. And all the girls said that had the most profound effect on insulating them and making them Krishna conscious, more than anything they did in the school. So, training a mind to be philosophical, to think philosophically, analytically, critically, to be able to look at things and go, this is right, this is wrong. That's what philosophy does. And if you don't have a philosophical brain, then all this stuff just comes in and you can't process it. So many kids, all this stuff comes in, and if they don't see things philosophically, they just get bewildered and enamored by it. So, one great thing for your children is to have them learn philosophy, to see things philosophically, even outside of Krishna consciousness, even if they just read Aristotle and Plato, and just being able to analyze and think, because Kali Yuga is all about dumbing down to the point people don't think. Any of you are preachers? No, you talk to people, and some of them, it's like, you talk and, you're not the body, and they're like, but what are you talking about? And, but, I don't care if I'm a dog, and what does it matter? And their brains are like non-functional. Like they can't understand these things. So I think it's really important for children to understand at the age they can understand art, to start discussing and understanding things philosophically. And as soon as my daughter started getting philosophy classes, they started getting nectar devotion classes. She was asking me all these philosophical questions. Like, her mind was. She would ask me questions like you would hear in an adult Bhagavatam class. And so I was thinking, oh, okay, this is good. Now she's learning to think. So when she's out in the world, when things are going on, people are being completely mesmerized by advertisement. They're completely mesmerized by news media, who's just getting to think in a certain way. They're being mesmerized by propaganda. They can look at that and go, wait a minute, is this actually true? What's actually happening here? Is it that just society is being bewildered by these ideas? So they won't just buy into everything. Otherwise, you buy into everything and just go, this is just normal. Everybody thinks like this. Everybody does that. And that's the downfall. If we can't teach our children to be independently thoughtful and think, and say, okay, everybody's doing this, but why? What for? What's the reason? Where does it take you? What's the value of it? Where does it come from? What's the authority? If they can be trained to think that way, then they can see through situations and just say, I'm not going to do this. This is stupid. Which is what they should say for practically everything that's going on out there. And even some things are stupid, but they're good because they'll help you materially, and you need to do them. You go, okay, I go to school, and you go, most of what I'm learning is stupid. I'm not going to use it. These people don't really know anything, but I have to learn it. So I do it. And so, but at least they understand the relative value of it. It has relative value in applying to my job. Some of it has no relative value at all. It's just people speculating about things. And in this way, you can kind of traverse this world without being touched by it, without being conditioned by it. If our children understand, if they understood the insidious nature of advertising and how it appeals to their lower instincts, how it appeals to brainwash them and coerce them, if they understand that, they can see through it. If they understand the subtle effects of television, how television puts you, I think, in an alpha state where you're totally open, your mind is just open to receive information, how it's reprogramming your subconscious with new values. I mean, if they understood these things, then they could go out in the world and not be affected by it. And they could look at other kids doing these things and go, and then they'd think, that's really stupid, what they're doing. This doesn't make sense. They're just ruining themselves. So that's the way what we want to teach our kids. We want to teach them to have Brahmin brains, because if they have Brahminical brains, they'll be fine. But if they get dumbed down like everybody else, then they'll do what everyone else does. And they'll go, what's wrong with this? Everyone's doing it. There's something wrong with you. You're telling me not to get drunk on the weekend. Everybody does it. You're so conservative. Just get up with the times. They'll think like that. And then that means we've failed in educating them. Right? Because they're kids who aren't devotees that understand that. So if we can't even get our devotees to understand that, we've really failed. That was a long answer to your question. Right? Brahmins have brains, not anymore. Yeah, now the Brahmins just have instead of big brains, they have big bellies. Women used to stay at home, weren't working. Now women are working, taking care of families. Yeah, everything has changed. Not ideal, for sure. But now, you don't know if your husband's going to divorce you. So you want to get a job, a degree, just so you can work in case. How do we get the youth to understand these things? Get a hammer, bang it on their head. Discuss philosophy with them. Just discuss. Get them to understand our philosophy. See, Prabhupada was he was very cutting, and Prabhupada pointed all this stuff out. And if you get your kids to listen to Prabhupada's morning walks, and Prabhupada talks about this. What do they say? They say this, and Prabhupada just smashes it. And so Prabhupada's showing, these people are fools. And he would say, fools and rascals. Rascals worse than a fool. And basically what he's saying is, these people do not know how to think. Their brains are on wrong. He said, no, Prabhupada, but they're, Nobel laureates, this and that. He said, they're just fools. Because what are they applying their intelligence to? Eating, sleeping, mating, defending. So our kids have to understand these things. And Prabhupada was expert at pointing out the foolishness of people. So why did Prabhupada point out the foolishness of people? So we wouldn't be foolish like everybody else. Because if we don't understand that material life is foolish, we're going to do it. So, look at Prabhupada's books. He's always pointing out, this is foolish, this is foolish, this is foolish, this is foolish. This is not culture, this is not dharma. So that's what we have to teach our children. We have to teach ourselves. We have to understand it. And then they understand, then they have a barometer, they have a standard. Okay, this is the standard by which you judge everything. This is what is true, this is what is real, this is what is dharmic, and everything else is Kali Yuga. And don't fall for Kali Yuga just because your friends say it's good, and just because this rock star does this and shows her boobs off to everybody. You think that's the standard now, right? It's like, it's like, I'll give you an example. This is really funny. I've told this a long time ago. I think you all know who Elvis Presley is, right? Elvis Presley was this first rock and roll, like the father of rock and roll kind of thing, And he was from the South, gospel, religious guy. And then he broke loose and, sang all these songs. And he would shake around, he'd play guitar and he'd shake his rear end and all this. And that was in the 50s, and there was a protest to ban him from performing because they thought it was obscene. Because he would shake around. I don't want to imitate how he shakes. You can go on YouTube if you want. And you'll look at it and you'll go, people thought that was wrong? That's weird. He's not doing anything wrong. He's just playing like this, doing like that. And people thought it was obscene because nobody did that in public in those days. It was just considered improper. And nowadays you look at that, improper, every Bollywood movie they're shaking their rear ends, But in the 1950s or even early 60s when Elvis was doing that, there was huge protests, Ban this guy, he can't perform in public, This is obscene. Isn't that interesting? Looking at perspectives of today and those days. That was considered obscene. So that just shows you people had some clarity, that people understood things. Nowadays, if you don't shake it up, you're not going to get a job as a performer, right? Especially if you're a woman. If you're not half naked shaking it up, forget it, baby, Might as well become a secretary somewhere. You're not going to get a job as a singer, right? Do you understand? So, we have to understand these things because you're raised in a society where these things are normal, and you have to understand they're not normal. They're totally abnormal. It's just that our society has become so degraded, it seems normal, and if you've been raised with it, you don't even realize it's not normal. But all I'm saying is, go back 50 years, 60 years, and even then it was considered abnormal. Isn't that interesting? In America, the most materialistic country, Elvis Presley is shaking his rear end and they want to shut him down. And he's not even shaking it that bad. Isn't that weird? Okay, so let's continue. You say, especially now, when sober behavior is misunderstood for arrogance. Yeah. And the thing is people, society's become very degraded, and we have to understand it's degraded, and we have to, understand what's proper and just commit to it. I mean, there's so many Christians that are committed to celibacy. It's amazing, before marriage. They just understand, and so the Christians have this thing, don't go with the ways of the world. You have your own values. We have our own values. So we should be proud not to go with the world. We should feel a kind of transcendental righteousness that we don't do that we are dharmic, and that we should feel happy and feel like proud that we're not going the way everyone else is going, rather than thinking, oh, if I'm not going the way everyone else is going, something's wrong with me, I'm not part of the crowd. No. You don't want to be part of the crowd. The crowd's going the wrong way. Jai. Okay. Then Kush says, if we need to establish Varnashram with Brahmins as heads, in society we need to start with the basics of respecting and engaging individuals' nature, not force them to be something that they're not. Yeah, so, but we're all being trained to be Brahmins, to have Brahminical brains, so that's important. Now, you may be like really good at making money. So Mahatma says, go make money, start a business because you're good at that. Or you're a great manager. So Mahatma says, go, I want you to organize this. But Brahminical intelligence, Brahminical brain, Brahminical culture, that we don't give up. That's what we're being trained. So, we talk about Varnashrama, but we as devotees are being trained as far as possible to be Brahminical. I have to go because I have to give another class to the Russians at 7 o'clock, and it takes me 15 minutes to walk there. And I have to leave. Prema's mother's birthday. Okay. Dustin says, so we perceive society as advanced the more we let go of what is perceived as prudish mentality. But as we talk about it, these advances are contributing to so many problems. Yes. I mean, it's not that there's not good people, it's not that there's not religious people. As I said, there's not that there's not people that understand these things, but the majority don't. It's the religious people who understand it, or some of the more conservative intellectuals who understand, who've studied history and philosophy, who understand the degrading influences of society. But ultimately, you understand that it's capitalism that's at the cause of it, at the helm of this, because you can't control capitalism very much with morals and ethics. It has to come from the Vaishyas themselves, because they don't have Brahmins. So now there's a lot of talk in business world about bringing spirituality into business, bringing ethics into business. But it's coming from them because ultimately they realize they'll make more money if they're moral. I mean, you read these articles on morality in business, and they always say, it makes more money. People are more productive. If it wasn't making more money and more productive, you think they would do it? Probably not. Interesting, isn't it? I have to go. I better run, otherwise I'll be late for my other class. Literally, I'm going to have to run. Okay, Hare Krishna. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Go Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol.